And this Capital Outlook profile now is with Tara Nethercott. Tara, welcome to Capital Outlook, and thank you for visiting with us today.
Good to see you, Craig.
You decided to run for election for Tony Ross's seat, a very popular senator who decided not to run 2 years ago. What motivated you to want to serve?
I've always been excited about serving, been passionate about it, paid attention to the legislature and paid attention to Wyoming politics and how the Wyoming government was running. And I became aware Tony was going to retire from the Senate, and a number of community members reached out to me and asked me to run, and I thought now is the time. I have a desire to serve, I have the time to serve and the passion, so I went ahead and took the plunge and ran for office.
As you know, I grew up in Riverton, and so did you. Tell me about your childhood days, your Riverton High School days. What were you into?
I loved Riverton. Fremont County is, I still consider home for me. It's a beautiful place and a wonderful place to grow up. I had a great childhood. My lifelong friends are still there and scattered throughout the state now. I was very active in high school. I was that girl that did everything, and so I was in the newspaper and journalism class.
Now you're 5'2". You weren't dunking basketball, so what were you doing?
I'm 5'1½".
Okay, all right.
Sometimes 3/4.
We'll get there maybe someday, right?
Indeed, I'm still growing. I was of the generation that got cut from athletics, and so at that time Riverton was in a population boom, and so there was a lot of students and a lot of talented athletes there, and I was cut. I tried out for basketball and volleyball and all those fun sports that you do in middle school, and quickly realized that maybe wasn't my forte. And that was a blessing, actually. And so I was able to focus my time doing other things that I find really have helped me grow, and I still use every day. So I did all the other activities.
So we talking what? Speech and debate, student council, things like that?
I did DECA.
Okay.
I did Key Club. I was a lieutenant governor in the Key Club. I did journalism, newspaper. I was in the band. I did cheerleading.
What'd you play in the band?
I was a clarinet.
You still play?
No. Nope.
Huh? Not going to see you up on the community band stage anytime soon?
I don't think so, no. I don't think I've got the capacity anymore. You know, I did all of those things. I also worked at the local newspaper as well and started my career there, actually, where I was fortunate enough to get to know Bob Peck, who served in the Senate at that time. Of course, I really was disconnected to that as a teenager, but I was able to see him at work and knew he was doing very important things, and I'm very grateful that I had that experience.
Published in the Legislative Guide is you're a lawyer. You got your Juris Doctorate in 2009, but you have an undergraduate background. What did you do?
I did. So I received an associate's degree in pre-law from Central Wyoming College, actually. At that time, I was doing both some high school courses and college courses and finished them up there in Riverton because I also had that great job. So I was able to pay for school through that opportunity.
Right? Yeah.
Pre-Hathaway, yes, indeed. So I still have student loans because I was not of the time frame for Hathaway. And then, of course, went to school for a while with the law degree. My undergraduate degrees, both from the University of Wyoming, are in criminal justice and communication and journalism. So 2 separate bachelor's degrees, and then knew I wanted to go to law school and did that as well.
So when you made that decision, is this the time you're starting to pay attention more to current events, to state politics? When did that really start coming into your your purview, if you will?
Sure. Well, I grew up in a home that read newspapers, and we watched the news, and we paid attention. Although we weren't active in politics, nobody was involved in with any party activities or endorsing any political candidates. We just paid attention. And so I grew up knowing the value of that, and that was a natural interest of mine. And so I just always was aware and always knew it was important to be an educated voter.
Talk about the University of Wyoming. We're both alum. And you've been paying attention and now working to try to solve the university's housing issues. What are your thoughts relative to the university, Tara, right now? Certainly there's been a lot of change. You could just go down the line. A new administration, relatively speaking, budget cuts, etc. Housing issues that are on the forefront of people's minds. Maybe some morale issues at the university. What is your general thoughts of the university that we both love?
I am proud of our university, and I see the university going in a very positive direction, and it will continue to be. There will always be hard times and hardships and new challenges when you're operating an institution of that size. But the support and the quality of education that the University of Wyoming provides is top-notch. I feel strongly about that. I was educated there. I know that my education from there has offered me an opportunity to be successful, to run a business in this state, and to make a living based off of that education. And my family members have done the same. And so have most of my friends who also attended the university and have very successful careers. And so I don't see that changing. The university is strong and will remain strong, and we will find housing solutions. We obviously need to find some maybe more modern choices.
Yeah, see, I wonder how motivated you are, because unlike me, you never had to live in the dorms at the University of Wyoming.
No, I didn't. As a transfer student, I was able to avoid that. However, I did stay in the dorms a number of times. My first time was in 1998, back when I participated with the Summer High School Institute.
There you go.
And
the dorms were really cool, though, right?
Oh yes, it was a very exciting time.
But how important of an issue do you think housing is at the university?
I do think it's important. I think that we need to make plans, and we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it now, and what actually the university needs for long-term housing. I mean, those planning and preparation needs to occur if we need to start saving in order to provide funding for it in the future, or understand how we're going to solve that problem. We can't continue to house kids in those dorms for another 60 years.
Have any other activities that you got into in college, or were you just laser focused on your studies?
I, just like in high school, I did everything I could in school as well, and so particularly in law school, I was
marching band when you were
really involved.
Undergrad? No?
Nope,
Okay.
I did not do that. In law school, I participated in the student body. I was president of the law school. I also worked in the library. I did the moot court competition and was the champion for a moot court competition, which was really fun, which is oral arguments in front of judges.
I think people might be surprised to learn that there is a competitive activities with law school.
Many competitive activities within law school, yes. And those activities really help allow you to hit the ground running, rather than just learning about how to understand the law from books.
So you travel around a little bit? Is this something like there's...
If you win the local competitions, yes, then you can go off to the regional competitions and compete against other schools.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about your first campaign. Sure. You're going to be starting, or this is now your third session.
It will be my third session, first term, third session.
When you were campaigning, you talked about, like many people talk about in Wyoming, the need to diversify Wyoming's economy. And you said this, but in order to do that, you said that the fundamental question first must be answered: why aren't we as diverse as we should be? So that was a couple years ago when you were running for office. Why isn't Wyoming as diverse as it should be? Have you figured that out yet?
I wish I had.
Yeah.
However, it's still a question that we're asking, and we need to continue to ask. I do have some insight into it, having studied the issue before campaigning and continuing to study it now with a different level of understanding. And I think it's important to understand Wyoming's place in time. We're a young state. We're landlocked. We are high altitude, and we're rural. So we haven't grown because of our population, and that's a real hardship. So we're in kind of this cyclical challenge of having a workforce that's available to interested companies to do manufacturing. They might be interested in coming here because of our low tax climate, but we don't have a workforce that they need because of our low population. Or the cost of transporting those goods because of our landlocked nature or isolated location is challenging as well. Even with the railroads and the interstates that we do have, it's still costly to transport at those distances, as maybe compared to some other locations that are closer to seaports or closer to other major transportation hubs.
So the answers. Endow is working. Other people, the private sector is working. I mean, certainly many people have thought about this for a long time, many sessions. Can Wyoming diversify its economy?
Wyoming will diversify its economy. It's a matter of time and patience. What makes it so urgent now is because we've been so reliant on our natural resources as a source of funding, and so when that is threatened because of the natural cyclical feature that it has, and then also from external influences from regulations and otherwise, we find ourselves feeling very vulnerable and looking for other solutions quite urgently, as we have been doing in recent years. And so we need to really solve that problem faster and more expediently than maybe time allows.
2 years ago on our Capital Outlook set, Senator Ellis and you and I talked about women in the Wyoming legislature, or the lack thereof. The national trend is that more women now are coming to serve, where the trend in Wyoming is not necessarily the case. Have you thought more about why that is and whether there are systematic issues the legislature can address that can help the aspect of more women serving in the Wyoming legislature?
I don't know that there are systematic issues that prevent women from serving. I think that there are a variety of influences that result in that. One being the time that we are in session. As a part-time citizen legislature, if you don't live in Cheyenne, then you're having to travel to Cheyenne during session, meaning that you're away from home for up to 2 months at times, and getting home on weekends can be very difficult in January and February, if possible at all. And so I think for a lot of women with families, that can be a challenge for them to be gone for so long. I know that many of them are the primary caregivers and breadwinners for their families, and so the ability for them to serve is challenged as a result of just that reality.
Do you see that trend bending at all in Wyoming, or are you concerned that it's going to be this way for a while relative to the amount of women who can serve?
I don't think it will be this way for a while. I think that the trend has been cyclical as well. I think there are times where we've seen more women in the legislature than we currently do now. I know that there's a great deal of interest in it on a national scale and on a local scale, and it's just a matter of women just deciding that they want to serve.
Senator Nethercott, it's a pleasure having you with us on Capital Outlook, and thank you so much for joining on this profile and letting us be in your wonderful home.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you.
This program is supported in part by a grant from the BNSF Railway Foundation, dedicated to improving the general welfare and quality of life in communities throughout the BNSF Railway service area. Proud to support Wyoming PBS.
And in part by the Wyoming Public Television Endowment and viewers like you.